Hey guys, let's talk about the damages under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. What can you recover, and what are some unusual things about the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the FCRA? So, appreciate you watching this video. My name is John Watts. I'm a consumer protection lawyer. A big part of my practice is suing credit bureaus, so Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, other companies like that, as well as what are called furnishers, those who provide or furnish the information to the credit bureau. So Capital One, Bank of America, debt collectors, etc. So let's actually talk about something that's sort of unusual, and then I'll talk about the more sort of normal part of damages. So here's something that's a little kind of quirk in the law that a lot of people are not aware of. And so when we think about, hey, I have false credit reporting and I got turned down for a loan, or I lost a security clearance and so I didn't get this job, or lost a job, or failed a background check, whatever it may be. So I have this negative stuff, and then it has bad consequences for me. Then I realize I have a problem. I pull my credit reports, I find the problem, I dispute it, and then they don't fix it. And so I sue. And part of my damages is I want to go back in time and say, hey, here's when I lost the mortgage, I lost the security clearance, the job, etc. The problem is that there are exceptions, but normally your damages will really only start after you dispute, and then the information that's negative and is inaccurate is not fixed. So sort of visualize a timeline. Negative information's on there, you don't know about it, bad stuff happens to you, then you dispute it, then it doesn't get fixed. In a lot of ways, right here, going forward, is where your damages pick up. Now, again, there are some exceptions, but I just want you to understand there is this little quirk that for a lot of the Fair Credit Reporting Act, definitely with the furnishers under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, there are no damages until they mess up the investigation. Okay. There's some times where we can argue the credit bureau's messed up and they're responsible for those earlier damages. But it's something to keep in mind. This is why sometimes a lawyer may say, hey, I know you got turned down for a mortgage. Then you discovered when you got turned down the bad information, you disputed it, they refused to fix it. Let's apply again, because maybe you'll get accepted this time. And if you get turned down, see, now we have a turn down that is after they botched the investigation. Does that make sense? So hopefully that makes sense. Now, let me just take a step back. What are sort of the more normal damages we get? Well, with any consumer statute, there usually are 3 or 4 things we can get. We can always get actual damages. Usually in the personal injury context, we call these compensatory damages. The idea is to compensate you. So here's where you were before they did something wrong, then that lowers you down to here. That gap is what's required to compensate you. Okay. So let me give you a personal injury example. I'm sitting there at traffic lights, somebody slams into the back of my car, and I lose $5,000 worth of wages, or $5,000 in medical bills. Well, here's where I was right before that happened. Here's where I am afterwards. It's a $5,000 loss. So that would be to compensate me. So we can have economic damages inside of actual damages. Okay, so I lost that job. I pay 5% for my mortgage instead of 3%, whatever it is. We also can have emotional distress damages. That usually is the biggest portion of this. In other words, this credit bureau or this furnisher, this debt collector, they put false information on my credit report. I told them it was false. I begged them to fix it. Nope, not going to fix it, because you're unimportant to them. Okay, I'm unimportant to them. We're not celebrities, we're not politicians, we're not star athletes, and so they don't care about us. It's like, you're unimportant, we're not going to spend any money trying to investigate this. Well, that's very upsetting to me, because they're treating me with contempt, just utter contempt. How insulting is that to me? Okay, so when we think about actual damages or compensatory damages, there's 2 types. There's the economic, literally it cost me money out of pocket, and there's the emotional distress damages. Well, then if we can prove willfulness or reckless conduct, we can get punitive damages. There's two functions. One is to punish the bad guys. Number two is to deter the bad guys and other bad guys from doing what these bad guys did. So somebody else, let's just say it's Capital One and Equifax, and we get punitive damages to punish Capital One, to punish Equifax. Well, it's also for the next time Capital One says, let's do this illegal thing. Oh, wait a minute. You remember that big verdict against us? Let's not do that again. Same thing with Equifax. But it's also for other companies. So it's for Bank of America. It's for Experian, TransUnion to go, whoa, whoa, whoa. We don't want to get hit with that. So you have actual or compensatory damages, then punitive damages, and then you get attorney's fees. So that's why sometimes people say, well, I'm bringing these cases without a lawyer. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, your lawyer's paid for by the bad guys. Like, why would you not take advantage of that? And then number 4, you can get what are called statutory damages. Now, you only get those if it's willful or reckless, totally different than other federal statutes like the FDCPA, Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. A lot of people kind of merge these. They go, well, if it's true over here, it must be true this other law. These are all separate laws. Statutory damages are when it's willful or reckless, and that is $1,000, and we view it as $1,000 per violation. Okay. Now, as a practical matter, usually that's not particularly important because we're getting it with the punitive. Like if we get to willful, we want those punitive damages. That is going to far outweigh any statutory damages. Okay. So I want you to have just those sort of basic ideas. Actual, same thing as compensatory. Punitive, only get those when you show this is reckless conduct. Attorney's fees, you get that for any type of violation that they do. And then statutory, again, that's only reckless or willful. But also keep in mind that timeline that you may have damages back here, but until they mess up the investigation, at least with the furnishers and usually with the credit bureaus, you can't go back in time and get those damages. So we have to sort of think, okay, now they messed up the investigation going forward, what are my damages? So that's a little trap that a lot of people fall into because it's sort of counterintuitive and not real apparent here. So anyway, thanks for watching this video, and I will catch you guys tomorrow. Okay, have a good one. Bye-bye.